Hey, family, welcome back to Unmute Your Mic podcast, the place where we talk about the conversations most of us avoid. But here is where we face them. So welcome back to another week. We're going to be talking this week about why high achievers don't struggle with success, but we struggle with vulnerability. And we're in part 2 of the ugly side of love. And so definitely excited to jump into this conversation some more about what does the ugly side of love look like. And then most importantly, we're going to shift the tone by the end of this episode where we stop looking at the ugly side, but start embracing the beautiful side. So Jay, I hope you're ready to hop into this conversation.
You already know I stay ready. Let's get it.
On today. So earlier, before we got on, we were talking about a couple of things. One of the things that I had to jot down because I was like, "Ooh, let me make sure we don't miss this in the podcast episode." Was around enabling. Mm-hmm. You tell me where you want us to jump into this conversation at.
Oh, you want to start with mine? You want to start with mine instead of yours?
Yeah, we're gonna start with yours.
Man, yeah, as we were talking before we hit the record button, we were talking about, I think, another ugly expression of when we don't see love correctly is we start to enable things that are inappropriate and out of design for relationship and what love looks like. And so because things may have been familiar based on what we define love to be from childhood and things that we normalize, we start to enable those behaviors, practices, and beliefs in relationship and that we think are love. And it actually creates a very dangerous dynamic and a very chaotic environment for two people to actually dwell in a love that's actually safe for the both of them. Like, for example, if someone is highly insecure because of maybe they weren't affirmed, maybe they didn't feel loved as a child, or maybe they had some type of betrayal happen in relationships, or maybe they felt abandoned from experiences they had. And then now they have placed it on the other person to make sure that they feel secure. And so what we do is we start shrinking ourselves and start distancing and disconnecting ourselves from safe spaces to now bring this person into a security that has never been our responsibility to hold. And so now the intimacy that we're supposed to share with parents, opposite sex friends that have healthy boundaries, that have never had any experience of crossing or blurring lines, or even being close with same-sex friends that feel like siblings, but because that closeness makes this other person feel like they're not enough. And so they start to shrink that space with them, and they start to minimize that space with them. And so what it is we start allowing somebody to make us carry the weight of their afflictions, the weight of their trauma, the weight of what has happened to them, as if we can heal something that we didn't break, right? And so that becomes a natural process as well. And then we start making that a norm, and then we start trying to coach others of, well, yeah, when you submit to your partner, when you love your partner, these are things that you should do. If you really care about this person, then, we say dying to self is to shrink oneself to try to bring healing to someone else's affliction. And that is not dying to self. Nor would I call that submission. What I would call that is being under the control of another person. And so we're submitted to the control of the pain that's in someone instead of being submitted to the freedom that love produces.
Say that one more time.
We end up surrendering to the pain that brings forth control instead of surrendering to the submission of the love that brings forth freedom.
And so do we submit to the control because we're trying to be at peace with the person, even if we're going to be in pieces within ourselves?
Eggshells. That's how they're formed.
It sounds like it's almost like us manipulating, though, on the cool, right? Follow me here. because the other person, a lot of times when they're trying to control the narrative or trying to control the situation or whatever it is, right, is more so about them solving for their own X, not really caring about the Y. And so when we say, well, okay, well, I'll just do this with you or for you, or we try to follow whatever path that makes the other person feel comfortable, we're still somewhat like we're not being fully who we are, just trying to make them feel seen, safe, and significant. And so to me, it's a little manipulating, because now you're not really being honest. And so then you can only remain that person or remain in the cage that they're trying to put you in for so long. And then you revert back to what you really could have like honestly committed to doing versus saying, oh, I'll try to do that with you. And the truth is you're not even bought in. You're really just saying it so the argument can end. But you're not really with it.
Yeah.
It's almost like negotiating with a non-negotiable.
Yeah. 1000%. It's very manipulative. I would agree with you. It is whenever we are not honest and bring forth truth into relationship without the fear of how that person's going to respond to truth, we end up creating an even more chaotic environment that we're already in due to the fragility that someone has placed on us to carry. So let's say you had insecurities, right? And you were placing those insecurities on me. And if I wasn't honest with you to say, you know what, Lauren, I understand what happened to you. I understand that it has hurt you and it's still a wound that you are still working through. But unfortunately, I cannot reduce how I am and how I love others in order to make you feel more secure for something that happened to you. Instead, what I would encourage you to do is let me know how I can walk with you instead of carrying you. And so that way we can allow God to be the healer that you need instead of trying to make me the healer that you need. And I will never be able to fully succeed in that, because that means I don't get to fully be who I'm made to be if I take on something that God is already qualified to be. Right? That's the truth of navigating that situation. Here's the manipulation. I'm so sorry that hurt you. I don't ever want you to ever feel pain. Boom, red flag. When we start declaring extreme things, yes, I don't want people to get hurt, but do I have the power to remove hurt from your life? No, I don't. But when we have these extreme things because we're like so caught up in what someone's feeling and what has happened to them, even though we can be very compassionate, then we start to make eternal gestures that we can actually cash the check of. I don't ever want you to feel pain. I don't ever want you to feel insecure. I don't ever want you to feel. And so what we do is we start forming our identity and we start forming how we operate, and we start perverting and manipulating our nature to be formed around this person never feeling pain. And then now that person resents you every time that pain shows up because you made the declaration and the submission to their pain that it would never return again. And you can never promise that.
And then you have to sit with your honesty at that point.
And now you're in a point where, because you've formed yourself to the pain and said that I'm going to make sure you never feel it again. Now, if you unform yourself back to your original design, now this person feels like you've betrayed them because you carried something that you should have never took on. So now we got to walk through the resentment of you trying to play God.
Yeah.
Then now we got to go through the betrayal of when you realize you can't be God. So while you're freeing yourself, they're now going through another phase of hurt that they were already insecure with from the beginning.
So you just made it worse. That's what you're trying to tell us. You just made it worse.
Enabling amplifies and multiplies pain that is already present. It adds to the measure of it. We think that enabling can save someone, and that mentality and practice and behavior actually causes somebody to be more in the bondage of what hurts them.
Yeah, because like when I think about like relationships and how we've seen them modeled, especially if you've grown up in a home where you've seen this type of behavior modeled as, and I think a lot of times we try to use this as a way to resolve conflict, right? Because we don't like contention. We're just trying to figure out what's the quickest way to exit the building without dying. And so this sounds like the quickest way. And so this is the way that we tend to go, but then eventually it becomes harmful, it's unproductive, it's unhealthy, but it's now the new seed that we've sown, and now it's the new tree that we see growing from it. And now we're having to come back and deal with the root cause of like, why did we even say that we could do it? And sometimes it's also, you can almost feel like if someone is making you feel as if, right, and you're in this belief with them that you're the person that can change the way that they're feeling by doing, if you just do this, then this will make everything work, right? So you find yourself agreeing to it because you almost feel like you're the only person in the conversation. And you're forgetting that this is supposed to be a 3-stranded cord. So this may not be mine to take on. Don't delegate that to me. Delegate that to God.
Delegate it to God.
Don't delegate it to me.
I feel like it's always going to create a deprivation and an emptiness that we oversee or overlook whenever we are practicing a love where we are trying to bring something to an end in someone because we want them to feel better or to be better in order for our space with them to feel safe. And if we're trying to cultivate safety from trying to fix something, then we're never going to produce safety. Safety is having the space and the acknowledgement, I can't heal that for you. I can't fix that for you. But I can walk with you while you sit with God, while he walks you through his ability to fix and heal that for you. And what does that look like for me to partner with you in that way? That's safety. We think safety is the absence of turmoil. We think peace is the absence of pain and hardship. But none of those are true, which is why we create impossible ecosystems and relationships with people for us to not be able to grow with them or walk with them, because none of those beliefs have space to walk with people. It's the space of bondage. It's the space of control. It's the space of fear. It's the space where pain cannot exist here, or this can't be love. Right? If you dare hurt me, whether it's intentional or not, then this questions who you can be to me, right? All these mentalities are really ugly devices that we believe and live from that causes really harmful spaces for people to navigate relationship. And nobody is allowed to show up as they are because we're like, well, I don't want to have to deal with that. I'm like, well, who said it was your responsibility?
Yeah.
Like when we say we want a man or woman of God, we really don't even know what we're talking about. We start looking at the fruit of the Spirit, which are beautiful things. I'm looking at that fruit. Well, fruit's great. I'm not saying fruit's not nice. And it's very relational practices to be loved by someone that has the love of God pouring out of them. But I would say is the thing that we should be looking at more is, what does it look like for you to process pain with God? What does it look like for you to process fear with God? What is your practice of how, whenever you feel an anxiety or an emptiness, or you feel a struggle, or you feel a pain point triggering something, how do you process that? Because one of the things that we choose when we choose a person, We choose them and their relationship with us. We choose them and their relationship with themselves. And then we choose them and their relationship with God. And then we choose them and their relationship with everything that has happened to them. So while we're sorting out lists and while we're creating this Venn diagram of who is allowed in my space or who is not, the one thing we don't think about is people's relationship with everything that's not with us. And how do they navigate those things? And so one of the ugliest things that we can do is people have put on a facade that if they are materially well, if they're financially well, if their body and image is well, then that means that this is a healthy person.
We have. We definitely have. Interesting enough, as you bring this up, it brings up something for me. I remember, this has been a couple of years ago now, when I was like, well, God, what is it? Like, you need it. If we're going to marry right, we got to date right, right? It's hard to date wrong and marry right. I'm not saying it's not possible. I don't know the probability on it. I have not done the case studies behind it. However, I remember him saying to me, how does this person, like, does this person trust their heart with me? Like, have you identified how is their relationship with me? When do they hear me? Do they hear me? Do they talk to me? Do they believe that I'll speak back to them? And I remember thinking like, oh my goodness, because I call it in my world, what I was putting together at that time was making an offer. Right. So like, people call it shooting their shot. I call it making an offer. So we look at making the offer. It's like, okay, let's look at these things, because sometimes, as I'll speak as a woman, because I'm a woman, oftentimes we're looking at the offering. We're looking at it from what you're saying, Jared. We're looking at it from a space of what can pay his bills, how much money does he make, what kind of job does he have, how long has he been in this job? We're looking at those things, but we're not looking at the heart. We're not looking at what has hurt him. We're not looking at how has he navigated hurt in the past. We're not looking at what is he rested in. We're not looking at where does his trust really lie. We're not looking at how does he trust God with his heart. We're not looking at when he has an issue, does he go to God first or does he go elsewhere? Like, and in business, we call it framework. What is the framework? Because what a person tends to do habitually is what they tend to do. That's their framework. That is how they solve problems. And so when I started to think about it from that space, I was like, he's like, well, because if you haven't spent time with me and I am love, and you don't trust, and he don't trust his heart with me, you may not want to put your heart over there just yet. Right. And thinking about it from that space of like, not just what is happening for what are the things I'm going to gain by being in a relationship with this person, but more so really identifying, is this a person that you're supposed to be moving into like a relationship with, like from a romantic space? Or is this somebody that you're just cultivating really great friendship with and you're just walking with? I think sometimes we have what we want. And so that's the only thing we focus on. And we don't give space that it could possibly be something else.
Correct.
And still be okay with that. And so that made me sit back and think about it from a very different lens versus just, well, what's going to be the benefit of me? What am I going to gain by being with this person? What's going to happen? Because I think we fall in love with fairy tale. Social media is like the new TV. It's a new TV show. Some people don't even have a TV at their house. They just go on their phone. They don't even need the TV. It's a new place where they go for entertainment, but it also is a place where the things that we're watching that we call entertainment is also messing with the way that we see life. And we're not bringing that back to God to say, God, is this what you say about relationships? Is this what you say about a life? Is this what you say about love?
Come on.
And be able to, have that conversation with God. We just see a lot of people saying it on social, and the pictures look great because we're visual people, and we're just going with that. And we're not really thinking about the implications that happen after it. And I think that that's very important when we're talking about navigating life and love and just the human experience overall.
1000%. That's powerful. You know, it's so interesting how we are probably the most ill-equipped with being taught how to love.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it is the biggest decision that we make is who we choose to love. And yet when we go into it, we act as if we have so much wisdom in something that we have the least amount of understanding about. Isn't it interesting, right? You go to school, you'll spend $100,000 to get educated on something you may not ever practice when you get the degree.
Yep.
Or you may change, you may discover you have a gift in something. And the thing that you just spent 8 to 10 years trying to master to learn is not a guarantee you'll even do that. Well, the one thing you know that you'll always do for the rest of your life is love. And we have the least amount of investment into it.
We don't spend that much time studying it at all.
Right.
And
then here's what's crazy. You have believers today, or people who believe that they're believers. And whenever you go to a place where all they talk about is love, they get frustrated because it's too much of it. I understand about the love of God and the grace of God, but we got to talk about sin, and we got to talk about hell, and we got to talk about judgment. We got to talk about vengeance. And it's so funny that the thing that people need the most is the thing that they don't want to hear the most about. It's so interesting. Mm-hmm. And they wonder why they get into relationships. And then no matter how much they set it up traditionally, no matter how much they set it up religiously, no matter how much they use, what's the term called that we used to have where men did the working and women did the cooking and the caring of kids?
Traditional roles?
Not traditional, there's a word for it. It's patriarchy, right? We try to reinstill patriarchy, sexism, whatever it is, and none of it still satisfies. And so we have so many ugly and dark things that we just keep reinventing the same wheel over, hoping that this generation will perfect something that never worked for any previous. And until we get to a point where love is the thing that we have the most wisdom on, love is the thing that we are the most persuaded about when it comes to God. Love is the thing that we have the most maturity in when it comes to every form of relationship. And love becomes the very essence of what makes us human. Then I don't care how many degrees, how much money, how much you work out, how much you go to therapy. Love will always seem foreign to you the minute that God's love taps you on the shoulder and realize that there's so much more beyond what you've confined it to be. And I think that that's one of the ugliest truths, is love can only be a part of this relationship as long as it meets my understanding instead of surpassing it.
And really, as long as it meets my need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Really, that one too. As long as it meets my need of what I'm needing, then that's really it. When I started thinking about my heart, and I actually created this chorus. It's so funny. It was so genius, quite honestly, because it was like managing your heart like a Fortune 500 company, because everybody thinks they're big business, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about the heart is the one organ you can't live without, but it's also the same place that we say love resides. Yeah, you can be brain dead and that heart still they can keep you pumping on a machine. Yeah, but you ain't never heard somebody heart dead and next day it was pumping with the brain, right? Yep. So if we're managing our heart like that, like it's something that you can't live without, then from that space, it makes us start looking at things a little more objectively versus just trying to fill a need, and using people to fill a need that really, when you bring your heart to God, you're like, oh, wait, you're the only person that could have met that. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was about to add that to a job description that it was not their job. Mm-hmm. This was not gonna work. I was really about to set this person up to put me back in the same cycle. Yeah. Put me back in the same cycle that I've been in. And so that's what made me start thinking about relationships, especially my romantic relationships, from a space of interviewing. Like people are like, are you dating? I'm interviewing. And it's almost like it takes people off guard. Mm-hmm. I'm not in need, right? I'm in desire. So I'm not in need, I'm in desire. That's good. So because I'm not in need, I don't have to take the first person interviewed.
Mm.
You don't. You can take time getting to know the person, cultivating friendship, cultivating connection in a way that's authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really get to know them. And then from there, be able to make a really great decision about, should this move to this other level, or was this supposed to be a lesson of something that I needed to learn or I needed to operate in? And this is just all it needs to be. And we don't have to have a big falling out about it.
Yeah.
You know, we really don't. We don't have to have a big falling out about it. And that to me it's been way more empowering. The people that are no longer on the journey or what have you, we both left each other's lives for the better. And I think that's really love. When you can leave people's life for the better,
Yeah.
and it's not, there's no ill, whatever, like you can speak well of them. They can speak well of you. It was gathered some really great lessons, picked up some great tools. It just equips you for what's next. So to those of you that are listening that are in that season, I want to challenge you to be married to the goal, but always be flexible with the plan. The plan can shift. That's the whole thing about the plan. But the goal can remain even if the plan changes. There's more ways to get to 4 outside of 2 times 2 and 2 plus 2. You can get to 4, 3 plus 1. So you got other avenues to get to the same goal. But I think sometimes we want to control the process so much because we feel like if we're leading this, then we're going to get to the goal. And that's just not always the case.
Right.
And that's how we fall into the spirit of enabling people or in moving into that space where we're trying to make sure they don't feel these consequences. Well, then now they're never going to know God as the person who carried them because you're taking the licks.
Yeah. Yeah. Denying people from taking up their cross. I always love to have references of Pastor Greg. I want to read something real quick that I think is really beautiful. That was so inspiring to me to help me actually come into a more liberated space of loving people without trying to be God to them. Right. And so it's really beautiful. This is what Pastor Greg wrote. And he said, the fact that God is the one who supplies himself as the sacrifice is supposed to flip all our ideas upside down about this God, that we're in a world that's taught us that he is demanding things from us. We should be doing things because we need to be good Christians. And after all, if we are good Christians, we ought to be doing this. If you are a good Christian, you ought to get very comfortable with God serving you. And that's how we would delve into taking up our cross, right? Because I don't think that people understand what it means to take up your cross. To take up your cross would be to look at all the things in the world, all the material things, and come to the place where you realize that none of those things can satisfy your desire for life. And so you are laying down the life you gain from the world. Your senses have been exercised, and you've come to the place where you see that even should I feel goodness from something in the earth, even should something animate my senses where I think, ooh, that's nice. I've come to the place where I realize that goodness that I feel in my body because it's sensuous is actually pointing me to the source of all goodness, which is God. It's not trying to point me to the material things or the creature. It's pointing me to the one who made all things, right? That's what it would be to take up your cross. Jesus didn't look to the world to find his desire for life satisfied. He looked to his union with the Father and the Holy Spirit, and that would be taking up your cross. And you come to the place where you let God serve you. What would it look like if we went from the ugly side of our false beliefs about love to the beautiful side about what is right about love, where we are two people in any form of a relationship? It could be with a parent, it could be with a sibling, it could be with a family member, it could be with a friend, it could be with the lover. What does that look like for two people to come together and to submit to letting God serve both people together? What would that look like when we choose a person or we are reconciling a relationship or we are walking along someone that we're already in relationship with? What does it look like where we both let God serve us in this relationship?
Looks like surrender. That's what it sounds like. And enjoyment.
So much delight, so much intimacy
Yes.
that never runs out because
Never
you're not
runs out.
needing each other. And you're both looking to the same source for everything that you need. You're both looking to the same source whenever disconnection happens, whenever pain shows up, whenever fear shows up, whenever woundedness show up, whenever trauma shows up. And we're not trying to regulate ourselves, but we're two people saying we have come to the agreement that we're going to let God regulate us. We have come to the agreement that we're going to let God be able to counsel us in the midst of this disconnection. You have grown into a person I no longer know anymore. Instead of calling it quits, what would it look like to say, God, why don't you teach me what it is to know about this person that has grown into something I can no longer recognize? God is the one person who will forever know the people that we're loving as they're evolving and being transformed. And just because we didn't get the memo about what they're going to become, God didn't miss out on that memo. What would it look like to be able to love a person in the newness of their becoming by letting God show us what they look like from his eyes as they become something new and they have died to our familiar experience? God has always been the source of keeping love together. God has always been the source of a love that endures. God is always the source where love always wins. We have made each other the source. If we can do these things, Lauren, and if we fight for this, then it will always be. Well, how many people have walked outside of marriages and relationships that they've had for decades because they kept fighting?
Yeah.
And they kept trying to build up the strength and redo the foundation and renovate everything. And yet it didn't change them being satisfied with one another. Isn't it interesting that the one person and the only person who has the ability to keep two people together when they're both beholding him, it's the one person we only go to when we can't hold on to one another as though each other are God, then that's the only time we want to bring God in. Well, they can't be God to me, so God, I guess I'll substitute you in.
Yeah, he's like the last resort.
Yeah,
like, well, now that we can't do this,
he's the other
find
lover.
my own.
Imagine God being the other lover in so many people's relationships. He's the other lover. That's how he's treated. So whenever you don't do right by me for my own understanding, then I'll just go to God then. And it's not even like from a place of delight. It's like a form of punishment and resentment to the other person. So now when you show up to God, talk about an ugly side of love. Talk about the ugly side of coming to God where you're using him because you're not getting what you want from someone else. Talk about ugliness, not just our relationship with people, Lauren, but how ugly of a heart do we have where God is just the side person until we get what we want. We post the scriptures online when we have been wronged by somebody to like show them I can move on without you. But it ain't the heart of knowing him. It's it's a form of resentment and a form of manipulation towards another. And you're bringing God into it. Talk about ugliness. Let's talk about how we're ugly with God.
And honestly, if you just went to him first, you wouldn't even be in this situation. You would have known going into it what it was. Because there aren't any secrets that he's not willing to share with you if you ask, right? So if you just ask him, he will tell us. The issue is we don't like asking God because we can't control what he's going to say. Because at this point, we've already identified that this is what we want him to say. And if he's not going to say this, then we kind of cool on him trying to say something different. So we don't go to him because a lot of times because of that reason alone, because we want it to be what we want it to be. And if it's going to be anything different, then now we don't want it. And so it becomes this really vicious cycle. And if we realize that he really risk management, it's so many risks you can really avoid if you have him on the team of helping us navigate and manage risk.
Yeah.
he's risk management. He knew what he told Adam and Eve where not to go. He told them, hey, don't go over there by that tree. He pointed it out. It's not like he was like, oh, there's a tree in here that you shouldn't try. You know what I'm saying? He didn't. I went back and because I was like, let me go look at this a different. Sir,
Right.
did you tell them how we got here? Right. So he's willing to tell you, but oftentimes we already have decided that we can do this without God until we realize we can't. Then we're back at the drawing board. And sometimes we get so married to the process that we're more married to the process of how it's going to work out. And we've divorced the goal altogether. And we don't know. And it's crazy because it's like we think we know, but we really don't know. Right. And so when he reminds us to lean not to our own understanding, but in all our ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. He didn't say you would. He said he will.
He would do directing. Yeah.
He would direct the path. So when we get into these ugly sides of love and we're trying to navigate it, now sometimes we're trying to make God the janitor. Like, hey, can you clean up the mess? No, you made this. He's like, no, I'm gonna. I said I would be with you. I didn't go clean up every mess behind you as well, especially when we have the freedom to be able to go to him and we just kind of choose not to. And we opt out.
Yeah. It's interesting that like everybody who walked with God was still walked into adversity. And even going to him and having dependency on him still doesn't get rid of the adversity. In fact, what's so beautiful is that God uses the adversity as the evidence, as in evidence, to prove that we are with him. There are some decisions, like nobody could tell me I was never supposed to be married to Ava's mom. I don't care how the outcome is. I don't care what has happened to her. I don't care what has happened to me, whatever. Nobody could tell me I was not supposed to be married to that woman. But when I got out of that marriage and she got out of that marriage, I'm pretty sure we felt very slighted by God because we believed we heard the Lord. Well, I will go back and tell you 8 years later of meeting this person, I would say, I know the Lord intended me to walk through that because of what it has formed me into and how I was able to see him in a way that if I had not experienced him, I wouldn't be able to see him in the way that I do. And so I think that when we see God as the person who navigates us through storms and that he's not trying to avoid them. And I think that's why we don't go to God, is because we think that we can avoid a storm. And then when a storm comes, we're like, oh, will you say peace be? Right? And God's like, I was on the boat, right? Like the disciples didn't go into the storm without God with them. Like he was sleeping. So like that experience and testimony that the disciples went through is to realize, like, when we're with God, he knows that we're going into a storm.
Yeah.
Can we accept and live in the beautiful side of love with him, where God, even when we go through adversity, even when I will be crushed, even when I will be offended, even when I will be ostracized, even when I will be oppressed, even when pain strikes me, even when trauma tries to recall itself, even when the remembrance of a wound starts to stalk at my side, even when darkness tries to overcome the light, even when I will remain. But we don't show up for the even when. We show up, I hope it don't.
That's so good. All I heard you saying is purposeful pain. That's what I heard. It's my first book, Purposeful Pain. I just try to feel like it was good I had been afflicted, like David said.
What?
I could understand your ways, God. It was good I had been afflicted, so I could understand your ways. That's when I stopped being judgmental.
It cures all of that, doesn't it? When you go through it yourself, And you start to see that God experienced it first.
Yeah.
And what was in him that still kept him so loving, despite those he loved betraying him and coming against him and becoming an enemy when they were made to be his lover.
Mm.
When you go through what God went through, and then he starts to share and relate, you like, now you understand why I said what I said when they did what they did.
Yeah.
Even when.
Even
Do
when.
your worst.
But
But
I'll
I'll
never
never
do mine.
That's when you know that the love of God is truly ruminating in you. But if you don't go through any worse, Jesus said, man, it's easy to love anybody that's easy to love. Even the pagans do that. So
Yeah.
how do you know if the love of God is in you, where everything and everybody in your life has submitted to the ease that you have to walk in order for them to be in relationship with you? Don't you dare struggle around me. Don't you dare get broke. Don't you dare keep dating these terrible men after I told you so. I need to stop hanging out with her because all she keep doing is I'm tired of seeing her suffer. And I'm like, man, I wonder what it was like for God to continue to watch you suffer. And how easily we exile people when God never abandoned us while we were suffering. And here's the kicker. For those who think that we're more worthy than somebody who's suffering in our circle, man, God's looking at them saying, you don't even know that you're tormented.
Yeah.
How dare we?
How dare we?
How dare we not allow space for anybody to be where they are and who they are and saying that I'll choose you as you are. Now, there are certain maturities that people have to have in them to go to a certain depth of relationship, but God forms that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go from even when to I hope it don't, that'll tell you how far the love will go.
Not even when, I hope.
Those are the two extremes, right?
Yeah.
There's a song by Jeremy Camp, and he says, even when I throw my life away, you still receive me.
Mm.
Even when, even when. And when we get to be that to one another, that even when.
Even when I'm mad with you, I'm just as much mad about you.
And the mad about you is seeing you as God believes about you. And that even when you do something to anger me, the thing you did to anger me could never snuff out what God believes about you. What does that look like for us?
Yeah.
Can I hang on to God's word about you more than what you're doing to me?
Mm.
Is the pain that you're causing more true to me than what God is saying what is saying about you to me? Girl, you stupid for staying. Well, I stayed because I hung on to what God said about this person. Not what I said, not what I believe, not what I thought I was worthy of. I already have all that in him, but I'm hanging on to what God believes. I believe it talks about it in First Peter 3 or 5 when it talks about godly wives.
Mm.
And it says, even if he falls away from the faith.
Mm-hmm. I just shared that scripture this week with somebody.
Bruh, even if.
I literally shared that with someone today who was struggling in their marriage. Literally this week, that specific scripture of First Peter. And that's when we don't know. That's when we oftentimes forget, like, I won't say like our power, but our power in him, right? And sometimes as women, we think we see ourselves lesser than or powerless. And so we don't see, like, no, just keep walking this way. And then God will do what he needs to do. You just keep walking your way. I think what we tend to do is we want to control it. But he said we were going to do that, right? In that curse, when he told us that pain bearing was going to be rough, he also says you're going to want to control your husband, but he's going to rule over you, is how he says it. And we do be trying to control it.
Swear, so hard. So hard.
Yeah, versus us operating in that First Peter scripture that you just referenced. I was trying to find it because I was like, I literally said this week. It's First Peter 3:1, and it says, "Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, that they also may, without the word, be won by the conversation of the wise." Conversation mean what come out your mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
While they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear, whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold or of putting on of apparel. That's that King James version there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why we have to be careful about telling people that you better than me. That backwards comment, backhand comment, it does not mean that you better than me. They just think you're crazy. That's why it's so important that you watch and you're careful about who you have to share those types of journeys with, because they're not for everybody, especially the radical ones that, because quite honestly, I mean, Noah looked crazy for 25 years, but that water came, didn't it? You see what I'm saying? Like if you consulting too many people who are not in this same persuasion, or they don't have this type of radical faith, they've never walked it, they don't know what this is like, it's going to sound that way to them. It is. But that's exactly why it's God. Like that's exactly what makes it even more God than it does human. Because it's above our thought process. It's above our rationale. And so it is those moments when he gives you that word, child, hold on to it.
Hold on.
His word don't return void.
Hold on.
So, if he said it, you can count on it.
Come on. That's the word right there. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. This was good. Y'all, we did not start out by saying this, the Bible study. Lord Jesus. Weekly, y'all. Jared got me on this Bible study every week, chat.
They did that.
It's been amazing.
They requested it.
You know what the people did? Jared but I feel like you was really supportive, but it doesn't matter because we're supposed to be on it every week. We really was supposed to be there every week, and it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
We just started going to weekly, so every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. What is that? 5 p.m. Pacific. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got
5 p.m. Pacific for our Pacific listeners. The Bible study, our virtual Bible study is happening, and it is an amazing time. We are diving into the heart of God. We are swimming in the love of God right now, and it's been so beautiful. So make sure you click the link in the show notes, register, and we cannot wait to see you.
Can't wait to see you
in our Bible study group. But until then, we'll see you Thursday behind the mic. Let us know what you thought about this episode.
Yes. Have a great weekend.
Peace.